Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to episode 244 of Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. My name is Christian Karasiewicz, and I am really excited about this week's topics and also about this week's guest. So I'm joined by Jim Fuhs. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jim on. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Christian. Great to see you, and really excited as well because our guest this week is Marisa Cali of All the Social. Marisa and I are actually really good friends. We have collaborated on a couple projects. She's actually dragged me out to DC last year for a conference, so we got to hang out as attendees. We weren't actually volunteering or anything like that. So it's interesting to see how sometimes other conferences are run. She is a sports fanatic, especially she's gotten very involved in women's sports. She loves soccer. I think sometimes like her backdrop is all these like soccer scarves, so to speak. And she's also a Mets fan, not a Padres fan, even though she is from San Diego. So, and she used to love the Chargers until they left San Diego. So see, I know a little bit about her, and she's really been doing some cool stuff like we've started to with remote live stream production.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And we're gonna talk with her about those topics, remote live stream production, later on in the show. Do we need to have like, I wish I had a sound effect for like the Vuvuzela or something like that. So like when I bring her on, I could play that. But we've got a lot of topics we want to talk about today with everyone. Lots of social media news this week. In particular, just want to give people a rundown on what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about LinkedIn ad retargeting tools, brand new feature from LinkedIn. We're also going to be talking about some Facebook updates. In particular, we're going to talk about the ability to send marketing emails from your Facebook page. We're going to go over that, some of the guidelines, things you should pay attention to. In addition to that, we're going to cover a fair amount on live video, actually. So Facebook, they've published their new guidelines for using music in videos. So we're going to talk about those because that's very important. I mean, you won't just necessarily shut down your page that you're using, but you could potentially shut down your actual Facebook account, which can be a big issue. Now, in addition to that, I know we also have a new Facebook app we're going to talk about for live event experiences and some fantastic tools and whatnot. But let's go and bring Marisa on. Marisa, it's fantastic having you join us. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Doing great.
So I know you said it's really early there for you. I think you got good coffee.
Yeah,
but
my coffee is the size of my head. No,
did Jim cover anything about you, or do we want to?
Yeah. Yes, he definitely mentioned that. I'm a huge sports fanatic. I think one of the things that have been really hard during this time. I mean, before the last 10 days, when it got a little bit harder to be in the social media world, but the lack of sports and finding outlets where you can still consume this type of content. But I think it's been really eye-opening to be able to have more conversations within the sports community and virtually. So it's kind of been blending in this live video production, having conversations. I've hosted 2 panels already and, recap shows and it's almost like our own little mini ESPN network, right? And they're all kind of on the same playing field now because they have to figure out these tools that we've been using for years, right? So it's really interesting. It's a nice time in the, I guess, when you think about the business world and how everyone's just embracing different technologies where they can still prioritize fan engagement and the topics that are important without sports going on right now. So
right, which is so strange, right? I mean, it's and NASCAR, I guess, is back if you really like NASCAR.
Soccer is back. Soccer is back. The German league is back, and we've been doing Zooms with some of the fans locally here, And that's, we have our microphones off and just watching together. So there's some type of camaraderie there, but it's still not the same, as going to the bar, going to a live match. And, as much as the importance of what's going on right now in this country, in the States, with the protesting and all the messages behind that. Sometimes I wish that we had sports to unite us like in person, because I think it's just really hard to have these really tough conversations that will spark change through video call, and how many people can you reach when I think Jim said it offline, like so many more people are online now, and you have to kind of still weed through the noise and still make an impact. And I think it's a little bit of a challenge. I think for me personally, as a always online type of person, just to try to find where you can really make an impact without the excess that maybe might affect your mental health, or you go into like, well, I don't have all the answers. And so it's just a really interesting time right now, and a lot of opportunities to learn, I think. And that's what I have to say.
No, great point.
So we're going to get to, obviously, we're going to talk about remote live production, in relation to, potentially into sports, and, how people can do that for live video. So Jim, you ready to get started with things?
Yeah, let's go.
So what do you want to talk about first?
So let's talk about LinkedIn ads retargeting. I think, in one aspect, LinkedIn ads are a hidden gold mine. I think, I've watched a couple of, LinkedIn ads experts, and it's like, wow, you can really do some amazing targeting. Yes, it's a little bit pricier than Facebook, but if you're in the B2B space, it's definitely something I think you want to consider. Marisa, have you played with ads yet at all on LinkedIn?
I have set up a retargeting pixel for LinkedIn. I think a lot of people are hesitant, and I think this goes for a lot of things when it comes to digital space. They don't know how to navigate it. They don't, they're not as plugged in as all three of us are, and all of the people in our community, where we can learn and maybe watch a video or a training from like AJ Wilcox or Judy Fox or someone else in the industry that's really plugged into this stuff and has the firsthand knowledge of utilizing it. And so when they start exploring ads, because I think Facebook does it really well in terms of marketing to business owners of like, you need to do ads. I think LinkedIn is still behind the needle on that, because they have a lot of really good tools that can be very specific to who you need to target, especially like decision makers, right? And I think it's just, for me, I've done retargeting on LinkedIn, but it's still also, much more it's not cost effective compared to like maybe Facebook. But then you look at your time, like, are you spending tons of time on doing an ad campaign on Facebook to, what's your ROI on that? Or are you spending less time with LinkedIn because specifically who you need to target? And I think, it's a good time that, to start exploring that, because LinkedIn is very good with, not just their ads platform, but I think also Sales Navigator. If you have like a sales process, right, and who to target, then I think it's definitely very important to explore that, especially decision makers, right?
Yeah, and I want to say too, Marisa, because like I said, we've become really good friends over the past couple of years. You really have gone all in on LinkedIn as the platform that you do, and I think and I remember learning from watching AJ Wilcox talking with Stephanie Liu, who's been a guest on Social Chatter, as well as the Tim and Jim show. I had no idea that you could actually put a targeting pixel from LinkedIn on your website. I was like, that is something you definitely need to do if you're serious about figuring out who's coming to your website from LinkedIn. I think that was, and it's free, right? It's
Right.
not like, so I think it's a lot of people don't even realize they can do it. You set up the ad account. You don't have to like run ads to get the pixel.
Hmm.
Very easy to do. So I think that's a great point. I mean,
Hmm.
where are your people coming from that who's your avatar?
Yeah, and like I said before, Facebook does a really good job about marketing this style of marketing to business owners. Like they're always sending emails like, this post is doing well, you want to boost it, or you want to set this up. So it's always top of mind, and you use that same analogy, but for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is not really doing that. I don't feel they push that enough. We have to do it as professionals, and which is good for us because that means more business, right? But it's still very new in terms of explaining it to people that are not familiar with ads or retargeting and stuff like that.
Right.
So then what do we have going on here? So, okay, LinkedIn's rolling out these new ad retargeting tools. Do you want to tell people like, okay, so what is ad retargeting, and then why is this one important to them?
Well, it's really tied to not only video ads, which, right, obviously video is becoming a more powerful thing, but also lead generation forms. And then they're talking about they're going to have brand safety integrations for the LinkedIn Audience Network. And so, I think, like they said, some of this is in response to COVID-19, and it's focusing on virtual engagement, live video events, right? So maybe for those of us that have LinkedIn Live, right, this might be something worth looking into. And not to mention, and I know Marissa and I did a test a few weeks ago, or I think it was a few weeks ago. It's like time flies, where now you have these LinkedIn virtual events. So maybe you want to run an ad to get people to come to your event, because one of the things that we found was if you didn't like accept that event invitation, it's like you're not going to be able to watch the video after the fact. So there are definitely some reasons you want to push people like, hey, if you want to come to this event, you need to, join in. And I don't know if it's still working, but we were actually able to go live to the page through Marissa's profile, even though the page did not have LinkedIn Live access yet. And I've noticed some changes, like even in StreamYard before you could like stream to say 2 profiles. If you had the login information, now you can only go to one LinkedIn destination, whether it's the LinkedIn event, LinkedIn company page, or the profile. So those are things to consider, and that's where these could become important tools. I know they said for Eddie Ever that video is going to become the next big thing. I think that what we've been going through over the last 3 months definitely has made video become more important than before. And it's hard to believe, right? We're like 2-3 weeks away from the first day of summer. I think we literally have spent spring indoors.
Definitely. So
I've been
with this whole
but that's another story.
So with the LinkedIn ad retargeting tool, by the way, just a quick point to Jim, to what Jim said. Basically, you'll be able to retarget people based on, for example, how much of a video. So right now it's for video ads, but how much of a video ad they've watched, whether it's 25%, 50%, 75, 100%. Now, in addition to that, this is where I think it's really important. There's a couple of things. One is if you're using the lead gen forms on LinkedIn, you can also target users there as well. So if they've actually opted into those, that's very useful, because then you can target them based on where they're at in the journey. And that's the part that I really want to get to, which is the importance of having a customer journey, a defined one. So for example, while you can run, LinkedIn ads, you want to make sure you have to keep in mind the platform you're on. So for example, people that are on LinkedIn, they're business focused. Great. That means that they're potentially more interested in buying. However, it also means that the buying process, their journey along the way, might be a very lengthy process. People are not necessarily going to just immediately buy just because you posted an ad. So you want to make sure your journey matches up with, potentially what they were watching, for example. So I think that's also really important here. It's not don't just try to force the square peg into a round hole thing here.
Yeah.
In this case, you really need to find that journey. Any tips for viewers, Marissa or Jim, on how to define a journey for a customer? on LinkedIn at least?
Yeah, I think, what online has really been, what I guess as a person, what I'm seeing in terms of ads and, my experience as a person is it's very instant gratification. Okay, I see an ad, I want to buy it. And this is what a lot of people see as, as a person, right? So they then think about, they want to replicate that same experience in a business sense with, like you said, it's like the business journey is much longer. And so then they think, okay, I'm going to implement a LinkedIn ad and I should have all of my software sold out because, I put an ad, I put $20, I boosted a post and I sent it out to all the CFOs of San Diego County, so to say, right? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, wait, that is a completely different experience because this is like a long-term engagement. This is like 3-4 years contract, maybe, 10-year contract sometimes, and people are not considering that when they start investing in ads. So it's like, what do you most need? Do you need their emails? Do you need their connections? Do you want them to get like a free trial? Like all of those different points need to be considered when you're starting your ads or at least testing things, like, are you even reaching people? And I think a lot of people get that confused because they want the instant gratification that they have as a person, like as a consumer, versus like putting themselves in a business mindset where you just need to get that email or that phone number and you do the sales call, you do that, follow up, because I think it's just harder, I think, unless you're Microsoft or, this well-known brand that's selling software and has like an enormous amount of money to spend on ads. Like it's just, a little bit different when you're approaching ads and how you implement that into your campaign.
Jim, anything you want to add to this, or do you want to move to the next topic?
No, we can move on to the next topic. I think Marisa did a great job of covering this that stuff. So let's the next one. Let's move into Facebook and talk about this potential ability to do email through your business page. And
this is definitely a fascinating thing. So what's going on here, by the way? So, Facebook email.
From the example, and I'm trying to see if I potentially might have it. This might be truly like a business manager thing. It looks like they've created what they call marketing tools, and within that, it's allowing some people to do email from their page. I'm not seeing yet on mine, and so I would be curious to see how that all is going to work. Is this going to be, because a lot of these email marketing programs, right, you have to have a, you pay for, depending on the number of people you have on your list, you've also got to get people to opt in. And they're even, and like you, I think had mentioned before, when we were talking earlier, even a CRM tool. So they've kind of always had some of this stuff. It's going to let you import your folks into there, add details about it, which I think you kind of could already do with some of your connections. Like you could put notes in things, but I don't think people think about using that. So I mean, I'll tell you why I probably would not use it is because I don't like the idea of, once again, I'm putting my data into Facebook. Do they now own the list versus me owning the list when I have my own email marketing platform? This kind of gets into the one-stop shop mentality, right?
Yeah.
All these things can be done in one thing, but then, like you said earlier, right? If you get kicked off, now what do you have?
Right. Yeah, I think I'm definitely on that same boat. I actually haven't even checked if I have it, if any of the accounts that I manage, because like you said before, I'm all in on LinkedIn. I think I logged into Facebook like twice yesterday. And I'm just like, it's not a matter of, pushing it to the side and trying not to understand it. It's more so like, this is another thing that we need to understand as professionals. And the digital space is getting so broad in spectrums. And like, it's really important to, think I'm, to have a community like this where I can learn stuff like that. I didn't even hear about this before, because I'm so plugged into like things that I'm doing for the business or, for clients. And, but this particular feature I think is cool, but I don't know if unless the page has, already built up a huge, following, or they're integrated, and that's their main platform in Facebook. I think it's, it would be beneficial for those people. But, if you're a new page that's starting out, or a business, which, we see a lot of, I don't know how this is any different than, maybe potentially starting a new email campaign, except for the fact that now Facebook is going to like have a stronghold on everything that you manage marketing wise, which, I think they are a powerhouse, but that's a business decision that you need to make. What tools are you using? I know a lot of people that use HubSpot that then integrate with Facebook already. So it's like, does this eliminate HubSpot in terms of a cost? Can you save money there? Is it going to disrupt certain processes you already have in place? I think those are all questions to consider if you were going to start using this as your main CRM or your main, marketing or email marketing channel.
Right. And I think, a couple great points too that you bring up, right? When they start creating, like as an example for people that may not know, right? Creator Studio is now the place that you schedule posts natively for both Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
They've come out with a Creator Studio app. We're going to talk a little bit about another app that they've come out with. So to your point, Marisa, right? Sometimes it can become overwhelming, even for people like us that do this as our living, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to keep that up with people that are like new to this. It's like, well, where do I start? Because
Mm-hmm.
things change. Even the way you go live on Facebook, right? Their whole studio process has completely changed. And there's some things that hopefully they're going to fix. You're not able to tag people like you used to with the older version. So it's kind of like they change things, and then it's kind of like, but then they take things away that maybe people liked. Am I gonna, have to buy a domain name of some sort if I'm going to use their email marketing, versus, or is it going to be like, all the social at facebook.com is the email address? A lot of unanswered questions at this point, and I think when it comes to branding, you want to stay on brand. Is this, in a sense, I don't know if I'll call it, if you want to call it, a shot across the bow at messenger bots, right? I still sometimes think that Facebook's ultimate goal is to either buy out one of these bot companies and make it their own. Native scheduling is a threat to third-party tools. We get that argument sometimes, like, well, if you use a third-party tool, maybe as many people don't see your posts as if you did it natively. And of course, no one's been able to prove that yet. But if people started to find that, they're like, well, why am I spending X dollars per month to do it, with a tool if I can just do it in the platform?
And those are great points. So I would say this, if Facebook does, again, we have to keep in mind, they test features all the time across different accounts. So basically you're in a big test environment, no problem there. However, you do have to make sure that you do follow all of the standard rules as well that apply to certain industries. So for example, if it's email marketing, and let's say you do get this, and by the way, this is via the Pages app where Megan was actually spotting this. But basically, if you have it, make sure, for example, that any email addresses you import are ones that you actually have the person's permission. You can't just add them. Then if they're from certain parts of the world, they have to follow GDPR and all that sort of other stuff as well. So you do have to keep that in mind. So it doesn't just mean, well, hey, I'm just going to start blasting people. And then also, just keep in mind, just overall with email marketing in general, you're competing for somebody's inbox. So don't just think, let me just flood the person's inbox with a whole bunch of updates. Definitely not something you want to do because it can cause a lot of issues. Did you want to add something, Marisa?
Yeah, I was just thinking like the downside of this, like then you get like overloaded with messages on Messenger and or in your email box, and then that results in unsubscribing. It does that unsubscribe you from the page? What kind of negative effect does that have on the brand perception to normal people that go and do their social audits of businesses and validate, okay, well they only have, the people that do not understand, they're like, oh, they only have 20 likes.
Right.
Are they legit? And that then, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've been a bad brand. It's just, oh man, it could totally affect their business on the outside and the credibility of that. So I wouldn't touch it yet. I gotta wait till it's, I think proven in the industry, and definitely seen different tests and how that can be done. But.
Right.
So that's an update we've got this week for you. So, Jem, what's next? By the way, where do we want to go?
Let's talk about, because this is big, especially for us, because we deal a lot with live video. But it's the update and guidelines for including music in video. Facebook has just put out some updates on that. Because a lot of times, right, like even now, you've got people that are wanting to, play some music over, just to help bring people together, people like in a band, even if they're a cover band, right? Are they like, hey, you're playing someone else's music? I saw a friend of mine shared a video from like an event last year, and it muted part of the video because there was music being played in the background. It was basically people just out, like, it was like more like almost like a field meet sort of thing between some business associations. So people are like, well, why are they, stopping my music? So they're giving some clarification. They're also giving you some tools. I mean, Facebook does have what they call a music collection, I believe, similar to YouTube has something as well, that you can use that music in your videos or your post without, any concern of attribution. But they also are, I think, looking to help people. I think we're going to talk about a couple tools later where you can really maybe even bring in some higher quality music as well. So this is, because people are always like, well, I want to put music in my video, and then they get upset. But these artists make a living off of royalties. Right. So I don't blame that on the flip side.
And absolutely, Jim. I mean, like, you can't just I can't just go to, and you and I've talked about this before. You can't just go to Spotify, Apple Music. You can't just go, download something you find online. Like YouTube, for example, has their own YouTube Music library that you can go and pick from, but it's not going to necessarily be the stuff that you want to use. Like, oh, I want to use this popular song. You have to have a license. And chances are, if it's a popular song, you're going to have to go through the music group that owns those rights. And they're not going to probably let you use it, or they will, and it'll cost you a whole lot of money. Facebook, as you mentioned, does have their sound collection as well. You can get that at facebook.com/sound. So, Marisa, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, like, if somebody wants to use music in a video, what should they do? I mean, obviously, I think they need to plan well ahead. They can't just start doing it. But what do you think?
I mean, definitely look at these rules from Facebook. I think this is a genuine concern for anyone that's potentially putting a video with music on. I've always gone the route of, utilizing third-party tools. I think I've used I forgot the name, but right now I use I've used Pond 5 for podcasting before, and Epidemic Sound. Right now I've used a lot just to get sound bites, and they have a wide range of things for intro videos, even like if you have you're doing a remote stream, but the thing is, like, people want to, like, churches and different artists, like you said, want to now put their music out. But if it's a cover of a song that's, is that going to be picked up by these AI tools that says, oh, no, this isn't actually copyrighted song, let me mute your video. Meanwhile, it's an original production of someone that may sound exactly like, I'm going to say Justin Bieber because that's the first person that came to my head. But I'm not like a huge Justin Bieber song, but like that's, if that's a popular song, like his song is Yummy is like really popular. But if you play that, a dance studio potentially is playing that, because they're showcasing, they're doing a showcase. Does their video get taken down? Does it, automatically, because the AI tool is saying, oh my God, like this is the yummy song, even though it's being played through speakers in the background, and they're just showcasing a performance.
And they might even have the rights as the dance studio to play it in the dance studio.
Right.
But it doesn't mean, and that's where people get confused too. Like it could be a gym, like, well, we're allowed to play this music in our gym, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have the license to then put it on a video that you're using for commercial purposes or even personal stuff.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Or even live streaming, or, as you mentioned, Jem, upload pre-recorded content, streaming content. So for example, you might have the rights to use it in the physical location, but hey, because of COVID, for example, you're not able to necessarily use it for social media because the license might not actually apply to that. Then when you go into like streaming is a whole nother story. And also, to Marissa's point, the fact that like some music, it does have a similar melody. A melody is actually copyrighted for the most part as well. So even though it might sound similar to something, like, most of these tools are very sophisticated, and they probably have, I want to say they're kind of in bed with probably, with Universal Music Group and those kinds of companies as well. So they've got something already ironed out. So you do have to keep that in mind. And I will say, if you do use music, I alluded to this earlier, it's a serious thing. You need to take it, you need to pay attention to, because it doesn't just affect your page. If you're using it, it can affect the page, and they might shut down your account, for example, if you're repeatedly violating that copyright. So, my tip, I guess, would be, make sure you go purchase the music that you want to use, purchase it. But before you purchase it, make sure you read through the terms of service of the site to make sure you're allowed to use it in the manner you want to use it in. Now, in addition to that, I also make sure that, like, if I can't use this music, some of these sites, they do offer the ability to give them a sample of what you want, and you could come up with something similar. It's not going to be the exact same thing, but it could be along the same lines as far as like the tempo, the beat, and so forth. Now, Jem, you and I went through this a lot with our Launch Your Live podcast we're working on, trying to figure out, well, what music do we use? And we kept coming up with things, well, that sounds like this, and that sounds like something else. But it is something you have to be very aware of. Anything you want to add, Marissa, on this?
Also be aware of, if you do get an alert, because I had a how-to video on my YouTube that I bought a sound that I implemented into the video, and it alerted it saying that it was copyright. It was another person's song, but I'm like, I bought this. So it's still like not as smart as we want it to be, because I bought it from a site, I paid for it, implemented it into my video, and it still got flagged. So imagine if this is, this is my personal YouTube or my business professional, my own thing. So it's not as I'm not as upset, but imagine, we're working alongside a bigger brand or a business. It needs to be explained, like, this could happen, whether it's a live stream or a video that's, something that is a brand sponsored video, that could happen, and your video could be taken down. And I think, these YouTubes and Facebooks and all of those will get better, but it's definitely something to look for and make sure that, you're not losing like a whole chunk of a video because YouTube flagged it, right? And I actually haven't even checked if they remove that thing, because I just contested it, right? Like, I bought this sound, like, but how do you show a receipt through a contact form, right? Like, there's just like so much, it's good that technology has been involved, but it's just getting more and more stuff. Like I said, the spectrum of knowledge that's needed. I'm glad that we have a large community to lean on when it comes to finding out about things like this.
Yeah, you almost wonder at some point if they'll create some way to almost like put like some sort of an embed code into your video, so it's like, okay, that's got, this is an officially licensed song, and leave it alone. But that becomes another step and another process.
Right.
Yeah. And I'd say this. Also, one other real quick thing here. So if you do happen to have, and then I see this a lot. So let's say you're making a video for example, say Jem, let's say you're live producing a workout video, for example, for somebody, and you do not have, like, say you get a flag or a notification that says, hey, you know what, we're going to mute your stream, and basically that ends your video, for example, for that moment. I would say this: don't panic, because okay, it happens. So sometimes what will happen is they will automatically flag something because the system automatically flagged it. Don't panic. Don't be like, well, hey, I got to fix this immediately. Put it on your to-do list. If you do get a copyright strike or a notification or whatever, go and make sure you address it within a timely manner. Usually I think there's a little leeway as far as how soon you have to respond. If, for example, it's your YouTube channel and your YouTube video gets flagged, make sure, go do the research. Where did I get the license from? Ask the company where you purchased it from. Mm-hmm. Hey, can you provide me with the link to your terms of use? I got a copyright strike on, YouTube or wherever, and provide all that information to them, but make sure you address it. Don't just sweep it under the rug and continue to do it. Right. Anything else y'all want to add, by the way, on just the fact that Facebook's added these guidelines? What do you think? Anything, Jim?
I mean, I think it's great that they're adding the guidelines, but I think, it's kind of be careful really when you decide to put music into your videos. Is it necessary, or it's just almost like I don't know if I'll call it a gimmick because you think somehow it's really going to help your stuff be seen or consumed that much more. So if you're going to add music, make sure you're following the rules, because it'll just cause you more headaches than it might be worth.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Marisa, anything you want to add?
No, Jim said it all. Do your checks and balances. Yeah.
So Jem, what's next? So we got LinkedIn, we got some Facebook. Do we have more Facebook, I think, right?
Yeah, let's talk about this new app, the Venue app that Facebook has come out with. Because I know Marissa's a huge sports fan. I'm a huge sports fan. I don't remember what sports is like, but this is really what this app is about. But then once again, now we've got another app, right? Why can't it just be part of the normal app that I just click something and go to it? But now I got to download another app. But this kind of gets into the whole world of where we are with the combination of virtual, hybrid events. This is going to let me, so far it seems like it's been NASCAR was the first one to do it. You could watch a race and I guess interact live during the event through the app with the whatever it might be. The announcers might be other things, in a sense, you could do that on Twitter, right? You could be live tweeting during an event. So, and maybe this is kind of that first step, okay, let's see how much people like this. And then maybe they make it available for other types of events, because when it's a virtual event, I think the biggest challenge for the event host is, how do I get engagement and excitement, that fear of missing out that our friend May King talks about all the time, Marissa, that people want to keep coming back because it's just, they can't miss it, even if they're not physically there.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how this plays out when sports starts coming back. We talked a little bit about it before, and I mean, I'm with you on trying to combine everything into one app, but I also like that this is specific to sports and live events, so you're not really muddled with all potential ads and regular events that go on Facebook, political arguments and stuff that maybe you don't have the energy to work on at that moment and you just want to escape into your sports thing. I do like that. I'm a really active Twitter user on my personal profile when it comes to sports. And I think that a lot of these commentators and or personalities have really embraced Twitter in terms of building up their community. I'm going to say community. I know that's a word in our industry, but there's people that follow them, religiously, and they engage with them, and I think it's really important to. I think I'm glad that Facebook has noticed that they're kind of falling behind when it comes to that in comparison to Twitter. So we'll see. I haven't used it yet. There's one event on there for NASCAR, but I wonder if they'll have it for like soccer, because German soccer is back. They've been playing for almost 3 weeks now, and English soccer is coming back in 2 weeks. So we'll see if.
Yeah, and it looks like, from what I'm seeing, possibly hockey and basketball. And as far as we know, football at the moment is still on track to start on time. I mean, I know, here locally, University of Georgia sports programs can go back to school on Monday to start working out, as long as they are virus free. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because I think, in some aspects we've missed sports, and then we've also said, wow, I spent a lot of time watching sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm I'm interested. I think this is cool. I think combining, like I said, the Twitter experience where you're really engaging with other people, but now it's like sports specific. So you don't get one, like on my Twitter, if there's a soccer game happening at the same time as a football game, maybe in like the fall, soccer, like a U.S. soccer, not English or German or Spanish. It's both content at the same time, right? You're getting football as well as football, right? Both footballs. But now you can kind of, okay, I'm going to go and hang out in this experience with, the LAFC fans or something like that, and what level will it go to? Because right now, like, I'm a fan of a USL club here in San Diego, and they're like third tier or two, whatever you want to call it. But I think it would be cool to experience that, because I don't think, even if they come back, they're not going to have fans, right? So do you get that fan experience through this app, or is it just a matter of tweeting right now, which is essentially what's being done now, or has been done even before COVID happened, right? So.
I will say this. I mean, I'm sort of concerned, I guess, about like I love the idea of the Facebook Venue app, the fact that it's available for iOS, available for Android. It does, again, they borrow from a social media channel. So, for example, they borrowed, I think, from, what was it, Pinterest, maybe last week or the week before. Now they're borrowing potentially from Twitter, because now people can have those interactions directly in this app. Now, the one part, though, that I think to me is a little concerning is if I'm a commentator. So I love the idea of being able to interact with people, and I could see a lot of potential here if, for example, how Pages, if you're like a news station, you can give somebody live access and things like that to your live video feed, for example. Makes a lot of sense if you're a news station and you have different anchors that you want to bring in. Makes a lot of sense. But the part that I think to me is the most concerning is, and we've seen this over the last few days, maybe the last week, is that when a commentator says something, for example, the Sacramento Kings, their commentator said something, the guy immediately got fired for his comments on a situation. I could see the same thing. Drew Brees, I think yesterday, made some comments as well. And we're not going to go into what the things they said, but it's the fact that now when you increase their ability to connect with fans, for example, and whatnot, like they might say something, kind of just trash talking in a way, but it also might seen as being very offensive, for example. Maybe
the heat of the moment, emotions run high, especially in sports at times. I could definitely see that as becoming an issue.
And people have the ability to easily screenshot something like this. It's in this kind of app, or they can record it because it's easy. For example, if it's iOS, you could just easily record your screen. So now you actually have all of that information to then potentially impact somebody. And so it does remove the ability to actually have commentary, if you think about it. If somebody, for example, is really big into NASCAR, say they're a big commentator and people tune in for certain reasons, they have to be very careful about what they say, I think. What do you guys think on that? I mean, anything?
I think there's 2 points. There's 2 points to it, like that I understand in terms of job security or, not wanting to maybe slip or say the wrong thing, but also in a way to maybe improve society's views on, not just allowing yourself to live in a bubble and really being cognizant of like the thoughts that you have or what you say. There are consequences, and I'm not a big well, you said something wrong, now fire you. Like it's not the immediate action that I want. I just want a learning thing. So will it be this instant gratification, they must be fired if they say something wrong, or is it, oh my gosh, like I need to look within and learn from that? And then, the thing is, like right now, it's just such a hot topic, and I think it will continue to be for a long time. This year, especially, I think just until things get back to what we know as normal. But it's a little dangerous because I think a lot of people that are so used to their way of thinking and what they say, they haven't been, it's going to take a while, I guess, to like have them understand that you can't just say stuff in a live video or in a live video interview or on Twitter without the potential for consequences, but the more you do that, the more things start to change and people's minds get open to different thoughts and different experiences. So it's good and bad, I guess. But I think you always have to be mindful of that and not necessarily hide what you're really truly thinking, but just bring a level of compassion and understanding to other people's thoughts. And, I think that will really help us all change things for the better and do better. So
definitely. So anything else you want to add, by the way, about the Facebook Venue app? I mean, it's available for iOS, available for Android. We dropped it in the comments.
I think I went ahead, I downloaded, I'm going to check it out. I mean, I think it's definitely worth exploring. I mean, even for event planners, they may want to kind of see how is this being used as a way to create engagement for, in a sense, a virtual event. Because even like, I don't know if it's the race this weekend in Atlanta. What's interesting is I never knew this, so you learn something new every day. They have these condos at the top of the speedway that these people buy, and they can have people in there to watch the races. Well, they can only have 5 people in there, including the owners this week. So it's like, so they're going to have a view, but maybe, you'll be able to see like, oh, look at these people up there watching the race, the few fans that there are. And some of these sports may not have fans in the stands, but maybe this will become a way where like they're streaming up on the scoreboard or something, like people talking about the game, or if you're cheering, we're going to play your audio through the speakers so the players feel like a little bit more of a bond with their fans. Because I think that interviewing the Atlanta Hawks announcer a few weeks ago, I think he said that's the biggest thing with the players. And if and anyone who's been an athlete, the fans get you excited and get your adrenaline going. It's a little different if there's like nobody watching. It's kind of like if so it'll be interesting. Fake crowd noise, who knows.
Oh, that's another topic, Jim.
Right, we should do a live show about that.
Right, exactly. No, I do another point, and this is very minuscule, I think, in the grand scheme of things, but I really like the branding. Like, it's very good color. I think the logo is pretty cool, and I think, it doesn't scream.
It doesn't make you. Yeah, it's good. That's exactly right. It doesn't look like Facebook, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Tesla, actually.
Yeah, I could see that.
Putting that one out there.
I like the colors. Actually, I use that in my Live and Social Now. Colors. So it's like, oh, what? You guys were looking and tapping into my phone. What's wrong with this? Yeah, so.
Very possible.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely. So before we move into the next section, by the way, of the show, so I know we talked about obviously like LinkedIn's ad retargeting tools. We talked about Facebook Venue, the Facebook Pages, ability to send emails. I know we've got a lot of other topics that we are not going to cover this week, and that's because we value your time. These are things such as IGTV ads for a limited set of creators. Pinterest has a new lens feature called, I don't know if it's called this, but it's See It, Snap It, Buy It, basically where you can take a photo, upload a photo, it'll find related products. We've got those topics. I think, do we have any other ones, Jim, as well? Instagram story.
Well, there's a new live streaming platform coming out from New Blue for PC, and
Yeah.
From what we heard, it may also come out for Mac that people might want to check out at some point. It's in beta, because that's the thing, right? There's things are always changing. People are always looking for new bells and whistles, but like I know we're all StreamYard fans, and I would say sometimes, right, people try to get too complex. There's some, goes back to what is it that you need to get done, and don't be like trying to be, the NASA SpaceX launch when really right now you just need to walk across the street.
Right. Exactly. So all of these topics, we're going to make the ones we didn't get to, we're going to put those in the blog post recap, and that's at socialchefs.com/SC244. Now, the reason we're not going to cover all of these, by the way, is because we want to make sure that we give Marisa enough time to actually like answer some of these questions we're going to talk to her about Facebook, about live video production. What that might mean for you as a business owner. So check out the blog post recap and sign up for the newsletter, socialchefs.com/daily. With that, Jim, I want to transition into this next segment where, we talk to our digital marketing professional that we have on the show. So I know we had prepared a series of questions for Marisa. Do you want to start off with those?
Yeah. So Marisa, you and I have talked about this a lot recently. I think that's something we've both been shifting into. What is the role of a remote live video production?
Okay, so I think it's simply said, it's the tech behind the scenes when you are delivering a live video stream. These tools are fairly simple to, I think, all three of us and a lot of people that may potentially watch this or watching or listening to it, because of the community that we are in. But a lot of people, the business owners that definitely need this, they have, free tutorials and stuff like that, but it's just another thing. I think when COVID hit, people were like, okay, I'm going to get on Zoom. Now Zoom has become a verb, right? Are you Zooming today? Like what, like how is your Zooming today or whatever, it's a verb now.
The word of the year, by the way.
Yeah. But, a lot of people have heard that word and are misunderstanding what a live stream is, because in my opinion, Zoom is a meeting software. It's like a new age go-to meeting, or WebEx. With live streaming, you have the ability to go live to social, which is what we're doing now. But you have put together a show with sharing screen, sharing banners, putting up comments on the screen, stuff like that. And what I see often is these business owners fumbling with the tech and pressing the button and looking over here. Okay, hold on, and it's like not a show and it's not a live stream. It doesn't have to be like this huge production with a lot of our peers do, which they're really good at because they've been doing it for 2-3 years. But these business owners that are getting started, they go live and they have no branding. It doesn't help people stop scrolling, right? Because it's just someone's face and they're looking down at their phone, or they're trying to bring in some guest or whatever, and it's just a bad representation, in my opinion, of that business, because it's not going to stop me from scrolling and looking at that person. Like I'm looking in the camera right now, and a lot of these business owners are not. They're looking at themselves.
Look at the keyboard. Yeah.
They're like, okay, how do I share this screen? Okay, down here. And it's just a bad, especially if you're solo, right? And highlighting what I'm saying. If you guys do like a 2-person show, Jim can talk for, a minute or two about one specific topic, and then you can highlight them, right? Or if it's a podcast or whatever. And people are missing that production value when it comes to a live stream, because they just think, okay, I'm going to hit go live on this tool and I'm live. Cool. And there's no substance, I guess, behind it.
Or they go live and they're sitting there waiting for people to join them. And it's like, okay, that dead air when somebody goes to play the video later. Okay, they're not talking, I'm going on to the next video. And I've seen a lot of those, and I won't stick around. It's no offense to the people that are in my network, but you have to go right into the content, and that's part of
fumbling with the banners and getting, your call to action up on the screen. And, it could be very simple. Like, I wish that sometimes I would have a remote producer, but I'm not going live that much right now because I'm just kind of re-engaging things. But, I wish that I would have when I started, but now I'm able to utilize that skill that I learned doing it for almost a year now, for a podcast that I was doing, and I do it for like side projects. So I'm able to use those skills that I've learned to now put together panels on mental health. And, and I'm never on screen. Last night I did an hour and a half one about race in the sports community. And it was like, I was sitting there in the room being able to learn from these people that are speaking, but also deliver what needed to be so that other people can watch it. And it's not like, oh, people are fumbling with the banners and stuff like that. And that's a side it's not a side hustle. It's more of it's a passion project, right? But these business owners are not implementing any of these tools into their marketing strategy, and it shows.
Well, and it kind of goes back to the point, right? Do you want to do your own accounting? Are you gonna, do your own yard work? Hire someone that's good at it so you can focus on what you're good at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're great at speaking, right, but it's kind of like you start multitasking. If you're like trying to be a virtual speaker, but at the same time, like, okay, I got to put this banner in, when you just can work that out with your producer to say, okay, when I say this, bring this on screen, or pull up this presentation, and not have to think about it, and you can stay on point, stay engaged with your audience. And I think that's another, big thing. Or even just like, hey, I want to have an event, but how do I set it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marisa, you, me, Christian, we all know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it's kind of like is it Staples that has the easy button?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I think it's people, they are free tools essentially, or minimal cost, Zoom, StreamYard, all of these things, but the knowledge and the tech behind the process, it's not just, I'm going to go on Zoom and I'm going to expect everyone to be here. No, you have to have an email list for people that are like going to go on your show now and later, or you need to have a process in place. And unfortunately, a lot of these big social media platforms have just, oh, it's okay, like just go live, right? And that has really kind of, it's up to us to communicate that, like, it's not just hitting the button and go live, like for a show or like a guest show or a panel. It's, this business marketing channel that you need to focus and invest in when it comes to that. And it could be a small investment. It could be like learning how to do it, right? Like learning how training, right? Like how can you utilize this and what can you do? Like you have the green background right now.
Yeah.
You could have other tools like an overlay or that video in the beginning, right? Like a lot of people are like, wow, how do you do that? Now you just need to make the video first, but how do people think like, oh, just go live. Like it's no big deal. And I'm like, no, it's a little bit more than that, so.
Right.
Definitely. So what do we have other questions for her, Jim?
Yeah. So why do you think that, well, and I think you've hit on part of it, Marisa, but why is that remote live producer so important? I mean, I think you hit on some of it.
Yeah. I mean, just to reiterate, it's, delivering the energy, the on-camera energy and the value you have to your community. And the more you do it, the more it will become, known to your audience or to the people you're trying to reach. And if you're focusing, I mean, I was on a Zoom the other day and like it took them 15 minutes to figure out how to record it. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, did they not do any training? Like, it just was like, this is a webinar and I'm spending my hour of time here. Like, please don't do that to me. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, you've almost lost me because I'm like, I'm not even going to learn from this. I'm spending 15 minutes. And that's the same with the live show. If you're fumbling around, not delivering in the first instance you come across the screen, then you can lose a lot of people. And you won't ever know that, right? Like people will just go off screen and they'll close it and you won't ever know. They're not going to say, wow, that live show sucked. right? Like they're not going to say that. They're just not going to be there. And that's the same thing with people going to your website, right? If they're never going to send you a contact message and say, hey, your website sucks, it didn't give me the right answers. No, they're just going to click and move on to someone else. So I think it's important to make sure your credibility is up there as much as possible, within your budget and within the means that you have, but learning how to implement this into your marketing strategy is definitely important.
So, Marisa, do you think there's a point where a business should hire a remote live producer? I mean, or do you think it's more dependent on, like what is it? It kind of goes back to SMART goals, right? What are you trying to accomplish? But do you think there's a point where definitely they should say, hey, I need to hand this off? I mean, you kind of even brought up like,
Yeah.
if you were doing it a lot, maybe it would be easier for you to, even though you can do it, to have someone do it for you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, businesses need to consider it because video is not going away. And there's many different ways that you can implement live video, and, from monthly panels, to weekly live shows, to video podcast that then turns into audio podcast. It could be a live recap show of like a sporting event. I mean, there's a lot of different options for live video, and people are like, well, I don't want to talk about myself. And it's not about talking about yourself. It's about your brand and what are your goals. Is it to drive traffic to your website? Like Christian, you've put up like a few links to like the Social Chef's website right now. If someone's looking at that, okay, like I'm going to go back and read that later, potentially. But people are like not utilizing this tool or this avenue, just to do it consistently. I do one for the co-working space that I'm out of right now, and it's hard to disseminate all the information that needs to be said about the current situation in terms of safety and stuff. So we did this video, but it grew our YouTube channel. People now want to potentially be members once things get back, open up. And I mean, it's open now, but people are still kind of hesitant, especially with the last couple weeks, with the protests and stuff like that. But how do you get that information? You have to touch at different points, like not just email, but also on social, because that's your credibility online. Like, how many businesses have you looked at to see if they're open yet since COVID started? And like, I sent a message to my nail salon, and I'm like, when, like, I know that there's regulations in California, but when are you going to open? And they have to make sure they monitor that inbox, right? But could they still be doing something in terms of live video right now? Probably. But, a lot of businesses are hurt right now. But I think this is a little bit, it combines live video with fan engagement and then if you repurpose it, there's so many different ways you can utilize this tool. If you have a strategy behind it, I think it hits a lot of points,
right?
And what you need to do online.
No, those are all great points. And so final question, on average, do you think there's like a price point for someone investing in a live producer, or do you think it kind of depends? I mean, because I know we've talked about that, right? How long? Because you also have to have respect for the live producer's time,
right?
Because if you're, it's not just that, whatever it's half hour, 1 hour, all day. There's a lot of pre and post that goes in there as well,
right?
That you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, I think I would look at resources that you have existing in your business. Do you have someone that's a little tech savvy that might need to just understand the tool and what features are there, and then you give them a paid training or do a group training session. And there's a lot of free tutorials, how to use these things online. I think both of us have all of us have done videos on certain aspects of live streaming on our YouTube channels. But who's going to own that pre-production side? Like doing the panel a couple weeks ago, it was coordination of 9 different guests, right? And can you handle it if you don't know this tool, right? And this is something that, we're doing on a monthly basis. So there's a retainer involved, and And it's, I mean, let's be honest, it's not like this crazy rocket science that you need to be understanding like so many things. It's just we already know and we have the experience. So my time for that hour and a half is not just that hour and a half. It's everything beforehand, all the emails, all the setting up, the graphics, we didn't do a lot of post-production, but there's emails have to be sent. Thank you for being on. Here's the link to promote it, and it's like, nurturing these people from the get-go, so that I think is, I've trained a gentleman of mine in my network who wants to do it for a political candidate. And I trained him how to do it. And, it's an hour, it's something he can afford. But a lot of people can't or don't want to invest that time or don't have more junior resources that can then manage it after the fact and learn the process. So they have to pay a larger retainer based on the frequency of the show. And I think that needs to be, it's a marketing channel. It's not live streaming. It's it's not just live streaming, right? Like, oh, I don't need live streaming, right? It's under your marketing umbrella, right? So, I've seen people pay like $200 for a training, and I've seen, packages that are upwards of $5,000 because that also integrates equipment that's being sent out to the host, right? Like, do they have a light? Do they have a green screen like Jim does behind him? Do they have a microphone? There's all these components that people are not thinking about. I'm not using a microphone, but I have good headphones right now, and you can't really tell that I'm wearing headphones, but it's, that's simple, but you have to understand the do's and don'ts of going live on camera.
What kind of headphones are you using, by the way?
I'm using these little ones from Amazon. Like, they're like $20, but they're really good, right? So,
because with the microphone, and this is like a little trick, actually. I mean, for example, it's not just like for example, Jim and I have these nice big cans. I have these on partly because they're a bit of a noise canceling here, but in your case, it's having a pair of headphones, for example. Don't just go with like, hey, I got this free pair from, I got a free pair from the airline that I traveled on, for example.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I got these headphones because they were $5 or $10. A lot of companies want you to buy cheap stuff, cheap equipment, because, for them, it's a high profit margin.
Yeah.
To produce.
They don't care about the quality of your video or anything. They're just like, yeah, buy. And then it breaks and they buy another one.
Exactly. And it's like, if you, instead of doing that, you could have basically bought one good pair of headphones that is a certain quality that you don't have to keep rebuying.
Right.
So make the investment in the good equipment or the best equipment you can get at the time. And then, if you want to upgrade, for example, I mean, I don't know how many microphones you guys have upgraded, but I mean, I've upgraded 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe my third or fourth mic that I've gotten here. I mean, I started out with a USB mic, and then I learned about XLR, and then I moved into that, so you want to make sure you get the right equipment for the work you're going to be doing.
Right.
And again, I mean, like with live video, another thing I think that's really key here is, you talked about like you outsource something as a remote live video producer. People have to also look at it. Okay, if I run a show, and I like your point about that, hire a junior person, for example, someone you can train to help offload some of those tasks. Like if you want to get into live video and you're not a technical person, hire a remote live producer. It will save you the time, but it's not just the time, it's the stress, the frustration. Like if you get really frustrated with tech, then, but you want to use live video, you have to, how do I get over the speed bump? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's, that applies to a lot of marketing things, and it's service based. A lot of people it's not something you can hold on to. Like if you could get part of my brain and my knowledge and my expertise, like here's what I'm selling you. It's not necessarily a pen or a headphones, but it's, just as valuable because you're going to learn something that you can apply in many different forms. Like I said, a panel, a live show, some little quick daily meditation. I mean, there's so many different things that people can do. And I think they're just like, well, I don't want to talk about myself. Well, it's not necessarily about you.
Right.
Even though you need to deliver it, it's not about you, Right.
So Jim, anything else y'all want to add? Do we have any other questions for Marisa?
No, those were the questions. Great answers, Marisa. I love what you're doing. You've done some great stuff. And what's a good place for people to check out some of your work, Marisa? Because I know you did the thing for the NFL draft. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where can they check out your work?
The best connection for me is on LinkedIn. You can go to linkedin.allthesocial.com and you can see what I've done there. A lot of the stuff that I've done, I could talk about, I can share examples, but it's on their channel. So, if you need examples, you just reach out to me. My channels, I've stopped doing my live show. Oh, it's actually another channel, but we're on LinkedIn is where you see my resume, my digital resume. But All the Social is really where you can find me anywhere across the platforms, and I'm online. You just have to reach out.
Right.
Perfect. Jim, do we have time for tool time, by the way? Because I know we
I do. Marisa, do you have time for tool time?
I actually have to record a stream in 11 minutes, or 12 minutes. So yeah.
Can we give it like 5 minutes? You got 5 minutes?
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna now switch gears. The third segment of our show, it's called Tool Time, where we like to highlight new tools and equipment and hardware and software, all sorts of things that help you or can help you as a business owner, to help you get more out of what you're doing. So the couple tools we want to talk about today, Jim, you want to start with this, by the way? Tell people what the first one is.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Sound Siphon is the first one.
What is Sound Siphon?
So it's a Mac tool, and it really helps you capture your audio and allows you to really do some neat things using software. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy all this hardware to just improve not only your audio quality, but do some mixing, get separate channels. And so it's, I mean, I haven't downloaded it yet. I think you've played with this a little bit though, haven't you?
I have, yes. And actually this is an alternative to a tool called, let me make sure I get the right one, Audio Hijack, which basically allows you to, loop back. Sorry, my bad. Loop back. Actually, sorry, because there's two different ones. Loop back, which basically is a way to help you, as you mentioned, route your audio. And I have an example here pulled up. I mean, do you want to talk about like why it's important for people to route their audio correctly? I mean, as you mentioned, you can get hundreds of dollars on equipment, but why should they learn how to route their audio correctly, Jim?
As an example, right now, the three of us talking is actually theoretically 3 different channels. And so if you're needing to edit your audio, you sometimes have to change the if you want to call it the wavelength of certain people, or they're going to come in much louder or much softer than the other folks. So especially if you're doing a podcast or even doing post video editing, you want to get your sound right, because like we've even said before, you can overcome crappy video with good audio, and there's so many ways to repurpose that. But if your audio is bad, people are not going to listen.
Right.
And with this tool, I want to kind of walk this. I'm going to like actually flip this around a little bit. So if I were the person on the right hand side where it says 2 channels and it's got, I think that's let's see. So we've got 2 pieces of audio here on the right hand side. By the way, we'll see if Marisa comes back. She might have had to drop. But basically, we've got 2 channels here. And so let's say we're doing a recording and we want to bring in, for example, audio from iTunes that we have the license to, and our microphone, for example. What we can do normally, if you're bringing it into, say, StreamYard, you have to play all of your system audio. There's not a way to say, well, I only want the microphone and the iTunes music channel. And so that's what you basically do with this. It's software based, right, Jem?
Mm-hmm.
And so all you do here is you say, okay, this is I could even, you could substitute for iTunes. It could be Skype, for example. Hey, I want Skype audio. I want FaceTime audio. You bring any of that in that's on your computer, and then you basically just, you mix the channels into what's on the right there. instead of what the normal way is everybody starts everything and you hear everything that comes through, whether it's notifications from your web browser, maybe you do a software update. It's any of that kind of stuff that you have open that's running. So in this case, you actually can determine what actually comes through then in, say, StreamYard. It all mixes into one channel. So very good tool. It's, I think, what is it, like $49, I think, Jem?
That sounds right. Yep.
Yeah, so it's about $49. Well worth it, though. I will say that. I mean, if you wanted to go, not to, I use Loopback personally, but Loopback and this tool, Sound Siphon, I mean, they're both very similar tools. Loopback, for example, is a pricier tool, that they sell, that another company sells. And that one, you basically get, the best of both worlds with either one. So both worth checking out. Okay. So what's the next tool we have, Jem?
It's called, if I'm saying it right, Licked.
I'm going to
or Licked D. I mean, there's no E in it, so I will say Licked. And it's we were talking about music earlier in regards to Facebook. So here's a way for you to get, as they say, real artist, real music that you can get the ability to put it on your videos.
Definitely. So, and as I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is like super, super, super important. One thing that I want to make sure we highlight here, I mean, this is primarily just for YouTube, but what people do is they go to these sites, they basically purchase music, and then it gives them the actual rights to do that. So, for example, some people, I know Marisa said, hey, she's purchased music certain ways before, and by doing it, you're buying it through the website and you're actually getting the license you should have versus assuming just because I bought something for just because I gave somebody money does not mean that I can necessarily use it in the product I want to use it in. For example, there's plenty of sites where you can go, they'll give you a free download for like an audio track, for example, and it doesn't mean you can just use it across your videos. For example, anything that you're generating money from, or I think it actually, it's commercial use. Anything also, Jem, I think, that you are potentially generating revenue from, even though if you've never generated a dollar on it, but it is part of your business. I think you do have to have that license, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
absolutely.
So the benefit here is, like with this, you basically pay a license for the music. Now, what's actually pretty cool about the Licked platform is, you can go and check out what's here, but they also, if you've never made a purchase from them, they'll actually give you the first one for free, which is pretty cool. And then the other part that I think is really, really nice about their pricing structure is this. And this is where I want to say get on the ground level, the ground floor. But the way they work from a pricing standpoint is they base it off of the last 50 videos that you have uploaded. So, for example, if you've uploaded 50 videos and you're getting, 5 and 10 views on your videos, they're pricing it off of that. So it might be good to do this stuff now as opposed to, waiting until you actually get a built-in audience. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So definitely something worth checking out. I personally, I get most of my music from Epidemic Sound. Marisa mentioned that earlier. Jem, where do you get yours from that you use?
I really haven't done a lot with music yet, but I think, even like we talked about with Launch Your Live, our new podcast that should be out here in the next couple of weeks, that we went with Epidemic to get our intro and outro music.
Definitely. And, again, I mean, it's about looking at the license that you get, but this is Licked. It's very similar platform. Go on there, look up the sounds, for example, come up with something that you potentially like. I mean, the great thing is you can also browse the entire site for certain types of moods, certain types of instruments and whatnot that you want to go with, or you can just go with some of their, most popular ones. But definitely something worth checking out. Again, as I mentioned, they support YouTube, but also check them out for Facebook, for Instagram, for Twitch, for Vimeo, and so forth. So that's Licked. Definitely another tool worth checking out. So is there anything else you want to talk about this week, Jem, or anything else we want to cover?
No, I think we've covered a good bit. Marisa gave some folks some great pointers about remote live stream production, and that is something that both Christian and I have been helping folks out with as well. So if you've got questions about remote live stream production or looking for help with it, make sure you contact us, and we'd love to have a chat about it.
Definitely. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Again, I want to thank Jim. Jim, thank you so much for helping me along with this week's show and for all the insights and whatnot you shared. Marisa as well. She had to drop because she had to go do another recording, but I want to thank her as well for joining us. If you want to get in touch with her, she is on LinkedIn. That's the primary place to get in touch with her. LinkedIn.allthesocial.com. That's going to redirect you to her LinkedIn profile. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a blog post recap. It's going to go out this weekend. If you want to get that, go check out some of the articles we talked about, but all the topics, but also some of the ones we didn't get to, such as Pinterest and, IGTV ads and whatnot. Check that out. And be sure you get our daily newsletter, socialchefs.com/daily, where we'll give you links to everything else along with some other tips and whatnot. But with that, we will see you all next week, next Thursday. I think that's we're already into June 7th. We're going to be joined by guest Juliet Stapleton, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, available at Facebook or youtube.com/social chefs. With that, I'm going to take us out. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you all later. Bye.
Take care.